I'm trying to ride on his coattails. I'll be right back. Cheers. I'm trying. Where's my stack?
Just straight over across, all the way to the other side.
Sure.
One more seat.
Perfect. Thank you. Good. How are you?
Nice meeting you.
I'm Melanie Wright. I'm
What was your first name again? Lynetta. Betty. Lynetta.
Hi, good to see you.
Hello. Good to meet you. I'm Andrew.
You ready? Okay, we'll get started. We'll jump in. Hello, how are you? Come on in. We're just about to get started. Soon we'll get your chair here. Just a few of us. So Sue is here. Okay. Pastor John, I met you before, Janine's younger brother.
Yes. How are you?
Real good. Good to see you.
Hello.
How are you? Pleasure to meet you.
Well, I'll put Sue over there.
Okay, we're going to get started. Welcome to Berea Church.
Thank you.
This is
Oh, well,
I'm Pastor Lee. This is our Bishop, Abram. Lovely sister here, member of our church. Do you want me to say your name in public? Okay. Well, we're glad you're here. Hopefully we get a few more people in, okay? So I'll give you guys some microphones, and you can announce who you are, what you're running for, if that's okay.
All right. How's it going?
I know this lovely lady on the end, because I've met her more than once, Sue. But here's the microphone, so we can maybe start with Sue, and then you all can just say who you are, what you're running for, if that's okay.
All right, is this on? Yes. Okay. Well, I'm Sue Arrington. I am the current state representative for House District 34. I've had this position for 10 years now. I live, I can almost walk to this church. I live close enough. But House District 34 is all of Citter Township and 3 precincts in Hamilton Township. So it's quite a compact district, which is very nice. You get to know people who live here. And so I'm really happy. Thank you for having us tonight. And thank you all for being here.
Hey everybody, my name is Melanie Wright and I'm running for Indiana State Senate District 26. And I live in Yorktown and I'm a K-6 music teacher at Daleville Community Schools. And I had the honor of being able to serve as the state representative for District 35 from 2014 to 2020, which I loved being a servant leader. And so District 26 is now newly drawn and it includes all of Delaware and also Randolph counties. The entire counties. And so happy to be here tonight and so happy to have this election tomorrow. And then we'll figure out.
Right.
So let's all pray before we leave, can we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, hi, my name is Amanda Dunnick, and I am your current city court judge, but I am running for Delaware County Circuit Court Number 1. I've been a judge for 7 years. I have 12 years of criminal law experience and 18 years of civil experience in the types of cases that are actually filed in Circuit Court 1. So that's the experience that I bring to the table. Having represented people on both sides of the civil cases that are heard has taught me the importance of being able to listen to somebody and actually actively listening and not just listening for a response. You have to be able to listen to solve a problem and to identify what the problems are. So that's what the 18 years of private practice has taught me on that. But it's also shown me the importance of coming to the bench without a bias. I'm not biased for or against one side or the other. I'm not pro-state or pro-defense. I'm not pro-female, pro-male. I'm not any of that because everybody deserves to be heard. Nobody's going to make a decision that everybody agrees with. So, you know, you may walk out of my courtroom not agreeing with my decision, but at least I hope you feel like I actually listened to you and what you said mattered when I made my decision. That's what I want to take to the bench in Delaware County Circuit Court 1 when I follow Marianne Voorhees, who's been a mentor to me in my time as city court judge. So,
hi, I'm Michelle Harvey. My friends call me Shelley, so please feel free to call me Shelley because we're all now friends. I'm running for Delaware County Clerk, and my experience is that I have worked in the legal field for 30 years. I worked at a law firm, and then I became Judge Robert Barnett's assistant court reporter, where I worked for Judge Barnett for 10 years. And then I moved down to the now retiring Judge Voorhees Court, and I was her head court reporter. And then in 2017, I took over the job as office administrator of the Public Defender's Office. So I've worked there, and I prepare budgets for the county, and I prepare reports of our expenditures and our budgets to the State Public Defender's Commission because we get a percentage of our budget returned to us by the State Public Defender's Office. And so I've worked preparing budgets and presenting to county council during budget hearings and asking for transfers of funds to other funds. And so I feel like I have the experience to be there. I do have the experience to be there. And I plan on running the elections fairly and with integrity and transparency because I think that is so important for the clerk. But the clerk's job is everybody thinks it's just about running the elections, but it's also about serving the judges and their needs. It's processing paperwork, it's opening cases, it's getting things issued for service to the other parties and things like that, notices of hearings, summons to people's houses. And so it's probably honestly about 80% legal work and about 20% running the elections. So both things are very, very important to the clerk's office. So I plan to do a great job for you all, And also, I want to reopen the clerk's office during lunch because, well, since we moved out there from downtown, we've already made ourselves less accessible to the public.
Right.
And then, a lot of people have 9-to-5 jobs, and the only time they can go out there and pay their support or pay on a judgment or, open a case is during their lunch hour. So, but this is the first clerk who is closed during the lunch hour, so I want to reopen the clerk's office so that people can come out there on their lunch hours and conduct businesses. So thank you for having us all here, and we're very happy to be here.
Hi there, everybody. My name is Janae Lee Lake, and I am honored to be here sitting at this table with these beautiful, lovely ladies. I've seen each of them on the campaign trail, and they're very inspiring. And I'm thankful that they came. And Melody just kind of cracked a little joke that this is actually a bipartisan forum, that we've invited the other side as well. And unfortunately, our opponents did not show up, but I'm glad you all are here. And I think it's so important to be able to meet with the public, and we're on the Facebook Live and that kind of thing, and just to be able to have people ask questions of us. I think it's important as elected leaders, as leaders in the community. These are very vital positions. Everything from, like you said, clerk to judge to state rep, state senator. I mean, these positions really are valuable. My position as the nominee for the Indiana's 5th Congressional District, I'm very honored to be elected. I was elected during the primary. It's my 3rd time running, and I was blessed to be able to win the 6th District primaries when I ran against Greg Pence. But then Muncie and Delaware County, we didn't move, but we were transferred from the 6th District to the 5th District. And people ask me why I decided to run for a 3rd time, and I do have to say that when I ran the first time, I always said I would run 3 times. I was inspired by the fact that Mike Pence ran 3 times before he won. Senator Joe Donnelly, before he became a senator, he was a congressman, and he ran 3 times before he won, and then he became a senator. Joe Biden ran for president 3 times before he won. So you do have to kind of be in it when you go into it as a strong person, a strong candidate. Things come against you. Some people make things out of whole cloth about you, and you got to keep pressing on. But the reason why I did it this time was because I do have a love for my country. I consider myself a patriot. I remember when I was 18 years old and living in Montgomery County, Crawfordsville, Indiana, my dad took me to the courthouse, and he told me how to vote. And he said, Janine, this is one of the few times where you're going to go behind that curtain, and you're going to be by yourself, and I want you to be able to make informed decisions. And so I took my civil duty, very, very, very seriously since then. I'm running today, not only because I believe that we need leaders that have calm, courage, and compassion, but also leaders that can walk down the middle of the aisle and be able to reach both the Republicans, Democrats, independents, libertarians, people that have the best in mind for America. And I hope as a moderate Democrat I can do that. Just real quick, we'll get to those things that are important later. So thank you very much. And this church is beautiful, and I'm really happy that this is one of the first big events that we've had here.
Yes, it is. I'm happy to be here. Well, tonight, thank you for all the introductions, and again, we wish some of the Republican counterparts would have been here, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It'll give you an opportunity to share some of the things that you feel like that you can do and be a benefit. So Sue, thank you. Melody, thank you. Mrs. Dunnick, thank you. Harvey, thank you. Mrs. Lee, thank you very much. I think we'll start in the same order with a few questions, if that's all right, basic questions. We'll start with Sue. Sue, how long have you been in politics?
Well, I got my start in politics by being a volunteer for other candidates.
Right.
Probably some of the rest of you have started out that way too. But there came a point when I decided it was time for me to run, and so I ran for Delaware County Council. This, if you've been around for a while, remember we built the Justice Center, and it was a total financial and otherwise fiasco. And the people who were the sitting council members were all decided not to run because they were pretty sure they'd get beat. They probably would have. So I went around and there were no women on the council at that time. And so I thought we needed to change that. And so I went around to women that I thought would make good council members and asked them, will you run? They all turned me down. But the last one I asked, it was getting close to the filing deadline. When she turned me down, she said, Sue, why don't you run?
Wow.
And so that's the first time anybody had ever said, Sue, you should run for office. And I think that's an important thing. Often women wait till someone asks them to run.
Right.
Men don't have that reticence usually. They figure, if I don't know now, I'll learn on the job. And women tend to think, I need to know everything before before I put my hat in the ring. So anyway, after I thought, well, maybe I should. So I asked my husband what he thought, and he said, yeah, you ought to do that. And I asked my friends, and they said, yes, Sue, you should run. So then the next thing I asked, will you help me? And that's when I really decided I was going to run for that office, and I won.
Wow.
So that was a 4-year term, and then I had to decide, well, am I going to run for this again, or should I run for something different? And I'd always been interested in the issues that come before the state legislature, and so I thought, okay, I think I'm going to run for the legislature, for the House of Representatives. And there was an incumbent, and he hadn't done anything to make people mad, really. And so I learned a lesson that it's very hard to be an incumbent if they haven't done anything to make people mad. So I lost that election. But, you know, I had money in my treasury still, so I just put it in a CD and thought, maybe I'll run again, or maybe I will find a candidate that I want to give this money to. So 10 years passed, and I was looking around for somebody to give the money to, when our sitting state senator, Allie Craycraft, decided to retire after I think it was 24 years. And when he decided to do that, I thought, I'm going to run again. So I did, and I won. And that was a 4-year term. That was in 2006, and I enjoyed being a senator. So I ran for re-election, but 2010 was a big Republican year, and I got beat. So I thought, well, okay, what am I going to do next? So 2 years later, in 2012, the House seat became available. It had been held by Dennis Tyler, and he ran for mayor and won, so he had to give up the House seat. So in 2012, I ran for the House and won, and I've been there ever since. So, so now I'm hoping to make it another 2 years.
Okay, I have a series of questions I want to ask you all. 3 questions. I think there's 5 of you. So I'm going to try to allot 5 minutes per question, no more than 5 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah, for everybody.
Okay, everybody. So Sue, back at you, and then we'll just go down to Melody and just keep on that way.
All right.
The first question I want to ask is, and there are a ton of issues when it comes to the community and things that people want, like to see. But, you know, sometimes you have to sort of filter out and find out what are the top issues. So what are the top issues that you feel are affecting Hoosiers today, and how do you plan to address them?
Okay, well, one issue that's a, you know, a really top issue for me is public education. Support for our teachers and support for our students by having strong public schools. Not over 90% of our kids get their education from our public schools, and yet our budget takes the top off the school funding formula, so that that goes to charter schools, it goes to virtual charters, it goes to private schools that take vouchers. So that leaves less money for our public schools. And sometimes you don't even notice it going out the window. There aren't that many. We only have one charter school here in Muncie, that's Inspire, and it's a small one. Some of the religious schools do take vouchers, but a lot of the money that is leaving Delaware County is not staying in schools of any type here in Muncie. It's going to places like Marion County and Vanderburgh County. And so that, I feel like that's not the best way to use our money, that we need to have a strong public school system throughout the state. So that's one issue. Another one, well, and another part of that is, you know, paying our teachers adequately, which Indiana is really behind in our teacher pay. Although we did do better this last session, thanks to President Biden, because there was a lot of federal money that came in to the state, and so that's how we were able to provide more money to the schools, so that but they had a choice. They didn't have to give it to the teachers, but most of them did.
There's another cordless mic back there.
Oh, okay. Is this one better?
What about this one?
Oh, yeah, there's one right here.
Okay, I'm sorry, that's the one. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay. Okay, this is better?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So a second issue then, I believe, is healthcare. We need to have high-quality, accessible healthcare for every Hoosier. So one of the things I've done in my years in the House and the Senate is try to improve access to healthcare for all of us. A third area is our environment and climate change. You read in the paper all the time about places that are being flooded out, or maybe they're having droughts. And we can see here, even in Indiana, the scientists at Purdue and IU that study the climate have warned us, if we don't improve what we do for our environment, in 50 years it's going to be a lot more droughty, times of drought and times of heavy rain and flooding. So I think that we need to pay attention to our climate and work together to fight climate change. Another issue that I didn't think I was going to have to be fighting for is the right for a woman to make the decision on abortion. With almost Roe v. Wade here almost 50 years, you think it's a settled issue, but as you know, last summer the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, and then Indiana had a special session and took away the right for women to make that decision for themselves. And it's now in the courts. The district court has put a stay on it, and so abortion is still legal here in Indiana until the court case is decided one way or another. So probably my 5 minutes are up. And there are other issues that I think are important, but maybe we can get to those later.
Thank you. So I agree with so much of what Sue said, and she and I fought hard for the city of Muncie, like with the Muncie Community School takeover. But I'm going to say, I always run on these 3 tenets, and that is advocating for working families, promoting local control in schools, and then partnering with local government to make our community stronger. But within that, I'm a firm believer in knocking on doors, and not just during election time, but I feel like a representative and a senator need to be out in the community, going to functions, talking to people, making sure that they have access to phone numbers and things like that. I think that's incredibly important. So how does it work? I really didn't realize it until I got down there as a state representative, and I thought, oh, if I just give a real impassioned debate that I could win some people over. No, that's not the way it works. I did a couple times, but that's it. But so what I feel like, so people might ask, well, why elect a Democrat if there's a super majority down there in the House or as a state representative or as a state senator? And the reason is we're able to give the arguments or the debates back. So we can still craft legislation, but a lot of times they'll say, well, we'll assign it to a committee, but it's not gonna be heard. Well, then it's encumbered. And so you can't use that language. So you have to decide whether you want to file it or not, because you could keep it for a second reading amendment, which is what we often do. But that's a tricky way to wait out legislation. But the big thing that I want to say is that everybody has their issue. Like mine, I feel passionately about education because I've been a public school teacher for over 33 years. But everybody has something that they feel passionately about. My job is to go around and figure that out and to take those voices down there and to, advocate for those voices on whatever the issue is. Ask the questions or question at the podium. And that's what I love to doing. But you have to really build relationships in the community to do that. And that's what I think is so incredibly vital. I think in this day and age, especially state level politics and definitely federal level politics, are just so divisive that people don't even think it can function like that before. But I say tonight, and I've said all along, that if we would just stop just worrying about who's financing campaigns and the lobbyists and focus on what people really need and work on solving problems for Hoosiers, we would be a model for the rest of the country. And that's something we're just missing the mark on. But it takes courage to sit down. It takes courage to come to a forum. And I guarantee you, if you don't see them meeting with you at a forum, you're not going to see them meeting with you once elected.
Right.
And that is the truth. We have witnessed that before. And so that's my hesitancy on this election eve, is that, people will show you their true colors when they're campaigning, and that's exactly how they will act when they are an elected official. And so I just think it's important to take the people's voice down there, and I think that's what we're missing. We need the people's voice down there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dunn, your top 3 areas that you want to focus on, I guess, or the top issues that you think are important that are affecting Hoosiers today, and how do you plan to address them?
Well, when talking about a judicial race or a judgeship, there's not a whole lot of impact I can do on a lot of the policy issues that we've heard about. However, what I see as a cancer in our society is addiction. And I would say a good 70% of every case that comes through the criminal court has addiction-related issues, or they are addiction crimes. They may be a theft, or it may be a battery, or it may be something that's not drug-related, but the person is either under the influence of it or attempting to get under the influence of some controlled substance. Leading up to, I started campaigning 18 months ago. Before that, I was going around to Bloomington and to Fort Wayne and to Indianapolis and viewing with a handful of stakeholders crisis intervention centers that these communities have. And there are 24/7 intervention centers that people can walk into, no questions asked. If you have warrants, they don't call the police on you. They will get you connected. You'll have a hot shower and a bath or a bed and food. All of those things to where if you're in crisis, whether it be mental health or addiction, that you'd have someplace to go. And I think Delaware County needs that. Just because when I look at, I can't prejudge a case, so I can't tell you I'm going to treat this type of offense this way or this type of defendant that way, because that means I'm prejudging a case before I've heard any evidence on it. What I do take into consideration, though, is the defendant's history, the defendant's character, the nature of the offense, and the sentencing guidelines that the legislature has given us. When you look at that, just because it's your first offense doesn't necessarily entitle you to treatment. And just because it's your fifth conviction doesn't necessarily entitle you to incarceration, because all of these little other factors play a role in what type of case or what your sentence is going to be. So addiction is a huge issue. Mental health is becoming as large of an issue as addiction. But if I could tell you the number of people who come through my court, I have to ask them their level of education. And it's 9th, it's 8th, it's 7th, it's 10th, it's GED. It's very few times do I ever see anybody with a high school diploma or any post-secondary education. So getting on the piggyback of what our state legislature needs to do is education is key. Education is one of the best ways to get out of crime and to be able to better your life and to better your community. So those two things are huge issues affecting the criminal justice system. 63% of the cases of Circuit 1 are in fact civil, so those are going to be divorces, custody, child support, parenting time, estates, guardianships, things of that nature. So when you start looking at mental health issues again and addiction issues again, that falls right into line with a lot of divorces and parenting time and child support and custody and things of that nature. So addiction and mental health are going to be my top ones.
Hello. Like Amanda, I do not have a lot of effect on what the laws are or making changes statewide or anything like that. My job will be, as with Judge Dunnick's, I called her Amanda because we've been friends a long, long time.
Long time.
And, but is to follow the laws set forth by the legislature. And by that I mean there's guidelines for everything that a clerk has to do and needs to do their job well. And so by the time those laws and guidelines get to me, I feel like I have a bachelor's degree from Ball State in legal administration, and I feel like I will follow. I've been a lover of the law my whole life. My oldest brother is an attorney, and I've always really appreciated the law. So what I can say, and I'm not saying it's an issue now, and this is a change I'm going to have to make, but I can make you the promise that everything my job entails will be done with the highest degree of appreciation for the laws and guidelines that are set out, and including, election law, and because I have faith in the law, and we've heard it before, our system is not a perfect system, but it's the best in the world. And I have a love for the system and would run the clerk's office according to everything that needs to be done to support the judges and do a public service through my office.
Mrs. Harvey, there are some people that think that Republicans have a lot to do with the rolling up of the votes and different things when it comes to the election. Can you speak to some of that? What strong hand do they have in sort of gathering all the ballots and different things at the polls and different things?
The election process is, as far as gathering ballots and things like that, everything is so electronic now. A lot of the places where there can be a perception of unfairness is with absentee voters who need to vote absentee, their applications being judged because I hate to speculate that any misdoings are done. I like to believe they're not, but there are different nuances and things in a absentee voter application that can be nitpicked, and so some some places and some people like to throw out as many votes, have invalidated as many votes as they can. And I just want the system to be fair for both sides. I don't want to say, well, this person is a Republican, so I'm going to judge the paperwork of, the Republicans who are trying to vote AVBs and primaries and things like that. I'm not going to judge it any differently than I would a Democrat application for AVB. The guidelines and the laws are what they are. And so I can't speak to any ill intent of our current local elections, which is, I just can't, because I don't want to be accusatory or anything like that. But I can promise you that we're going to be fair to both sides when it comes to elections, because I think that's the only way you can be to keep democracy strong.
I agree. One more question. Where does the majority of your budget go for the clerk's office?
The majority of the clerk's budget goes to employees. There are 25 employees in the clerk's office, and plus the budget for elections. The other expenses on the clerk's budget are pretty much what you would expect in any office, computers, but the elections in an election year are a major portion of the clerk's budget because you have to staff polling places. You have to service the voting machines and make sure, that everything's running properly. And when you staff the polling places, you're paying those people not a lot of money to sit there all day, trust me, but it still adds up when you're paying 3 people per polling site. So a majority of the budget goes to employees, current employees, and salaries and benefits for the 25 people that work there. But I was looking at the clerk's budget today, and it is overwhelmingly employee-driven.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Janine Lee, what are a few of the top issues that you feel are affecting Hoosiers today? How do you plan to address them? Women's rights, job, inflation, disunity, the politics sort of creates. Anything you can speak to? 3, maybe 2 or 3 issues.
Well, I'll just name 3 quick ones. Education is very important. Roe versus Wade is very important. And common sense gun legislation. And by that, I really actually mean, one of the things that I think that Indiana does well is we have a state red flag law here. It was named after Jake Laird, who was an officer that was killed in the line of duty. And basically it just means that if we have someone that we know that is exhibiting maybe some mental health stresses, some crises, that we can request that law enforcement remove their weapons. And then I think there's a certain amount of time, and then they go to court, and then they're able to say, this is, this is kind of where I'm at, and I'm okay, or I'm not okay, and that person is deemed safe to have their weapons back. I think that's important because, one, it cuts down on suicide, because sometimes people aren't wanting to hurt other people, they're wanting to hurt themselves, and then also, to other people. So I think a federal red flag law would be good. I'm in support of that. I think a lot of times that sometimes we don't need more laws, sometimes we need to enforce the laws that we have. We are not doing a great job of networking with, for background checks on guns. And so many times it seems like you hear someone saying, oh, that person fell through the cracks. And I'm thinking, again and again and again, and this person fell through the cracks, and this person fell through the cracks, and you have 42 people shot and killed, and then 58 people shot and killed. And if someone would have had a register that went from, we have the technology to do this, that goes from state to state to state, and there's just a blanket template that every single state follows. Instead of different systems, instead of different networks, it needs to all be the same. And I'm sorry, I think that's on purpose because it really doesn't seem to be that hard. Third, I went to education. President Biden recently passed the Loan Forgiveness Act, which is huge for a lot of families. If you've been, I guess, a proponent of the Pell Grant, you were able to receive, I think, what, 10,000, and then it went up to 20,000, which was great. But there's a lot of people still that are taking out loans, and they're paying 5, 6, some of, upwards of 10% interest for school loans. I mean, if we're wanting to educate the public, we're wanting to educate students, we're wanting to look into the future and have people that are educated, why don't we just have 0% loans? If people have to get loans, just make it 0%. Pay back what you actually took out. I also think, that we can expand the Pell Grant opportunities and give more people an opportunity, to go to college with less. There's a lot, I know that for me, my school loans between graduate and undergraduate, coupled with, my former spouse, it was almost like having an extra mortgage, really, when we tallied it all together every month. And then on top of that, you have kids that start to come in, so that by the time the adults are done paying their school loans, you got to pay for your kids' loans. It's like you're being underwater all the time. So that's something that I think can be done. And then thirdly, as education, guns, and then Roe versus Wade. Some of you all know that my personal story was that when I came to Ball State as a 17-year-old teenager, I experienced a traumatic sexual assault. I don't think, and then ensuing within coming months, that I found myself with an unwanted pregnancy. I don't think those are issues that belong in government at all. The idea that this has actually been, in the hallowed halls of Congress, in the Senate, and in the discourse of government has been a mistake from day one. These are private matters. These are family matters. These are matters, in my opinion, between a woman, her partner, her family. If she has a higher power, God, that's it. And if I'm elected, I would definitely work to codify Roe and be part of that community that makes this something that women can just decide on their own.
Very good. Thank you. And you have my vote.
I better.
Just on a lighter note, I guess, when I came here, everywhere I went, everyone told me that I was Janine's brother.
Now they're saying that I'm your
Now-
sister.
Now the joke is that she's my sister. To God be the glory. Okay, let's move on. A few more questions here, Sue. Now, you've already given us what are the top issues that you thought were affecting Hoosiers today, and sort of your plan that you may be able to address them. But as you know, we all know, we can't always attack everything. There's an old saying, you have to pick your battles. And surely that's the case in politics. And even as vehement as you may feel about something, we all understand that there are really realistic and attainable goals that we can have. Something we're certain that we could go after that would probably make us a wise individual, even as a politician. Do you have a few things that you feel like
I heard that.
We heard that, John. Even as a politician.
Yeah, I heard that.
That was not intended pun. I have to stand for that when you guys leave. So, you told us what you thought were the top issues. What are going to be your issues in light of how you feel and what you think that you could change and in effect?
Okay, so we're going into a budget year, 2023, and in the long sessions, which budget years are long sessions, we go from January till the end of April. In the House, we can have a total of 10 bills. So that's as many as I can have. Some that, I won't mention all 10 of them that I'm working on, but one of them has to do with rental properties. Right now, there's a very big imbalance in the relationship between renters and landlords. And it's the state legislature that has put its fist on the side of the scale for the landlords. Tenant rights are not very well protected in Indiana. And you may have seen a few weeks ago that there was a protest by students for the conditions for their apartments. And as a result, the city council here in Muncie passed a resolution calling on the state legislature to do something, since the legislature has tied the hands of local government. So I have a bill that's going to do something that I think will make it a little fairer, balance between landlords and tenants. So that's one of them. Another one is one that I've had this will be my third year, and it comes from my experience of working for Planned Parenthood, and knowing that if you really want to stop abortion, let's prevent it from happening unintended pregnancies from happening in the first place. So there are two key things that can do that. One is better access to high proficiency contraceptives. The other one is access to comprehensive, medically accurate, age-appropriate sex education. And that's the piece that I'm working on, is to be sure that we do have the kinds of education that students need, that young people need to protect themselves from pregnancy. Now, maybe that's going to be for some abstinence, and that's great, because that is a foolproof method of not getting pregnant. But so often you think you're going to be absent, and then in the heat of the moment, you're not. So what's the fallback for that? And I want students to know what that is. Another component of this is the whole issue of consent, and how that, are you being manipulated into having sex? Or are you going at it, with full knowledge and yes, I'm a partner to this. So the issue of knowing what is consent and how do you resist pressure if someone is trying to push you into a sexual relationship when you don't feel you're ready. So that's another one. Issues of young people are often questioning, who am I? What is it about me that's different from these other people? And I think that that's another part of comprehensive sex education, is to give students the opportunity to question and get some answers about what their sexuality is. And maybe they're going to come down, they're male, they're female, but there are a lot of kids that are somewhere in between. Sexuality is on a continuum. It's not just one or the other. And we're finding that out more and more. So there's another one of my bills. I also have one dealing with solar energy. Now, I have solar panels on my roof, and it's been wonderful. For about 6 months of the year, my electric bill is like $15 or $16. And I have a big house. But I have it because I was able to afford that upfront cost. Now, a lot of people maybe can't afford that, or they live in an apartment, they rent, or they have trees that hang over their roofs. And there is a solution for those people, and that's called community solar. It's where some solar entrepreneurs, establish a small solar field, and then they sell subscriptions to individuals. so that they can benefit from those lower prices. And I think that's really important, because right now it is lopsided. For those who can afford it, they get the lower electric bills. And those who can't afford to install them on their roofs aren't able to take advantage of it. But with community solar, anybody can take advantage of it. So there's, I guess that's, I think, 3 that I've mentioned. If you want to hear more, I'll wait till after the others have finished.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Melody, you've given us your top 3, and again, we all have to sort of pick and choose things that we feel like we can be successful in. Are your top 3 the same 3 that you feel like that you will try to pursue as major issues, or maybe top 4, or just whatever you're passionate about?
Yeah, so it basically fits into those. So my number 1 is, public education. And as a public school teacher, I can just see that the last 12 years we are not heading in the right direction, and we're not doing what's best for kids. And that most certainly is because we've ramped up standardized testing, which those standardized testing companies have just benefited financially to a great degree. And so I feel like even if we could cut the standardized testing in half, we could save that money, and we could put it back to the schools to deal with remediation, also to deal with summer school, and to get additional, thank you, additional instructional aids and assistance in the school system to try to pull us up from where we've lost learning from COVID. And I think that that's a way to be able to push the money back to the schools without trying to find new money to do it. The other thing that I feel passionately about is some of the startup schools are not held accountable. So if a couple people wanted to start a school like in March, and they would receive what's called a common school loan from the state, there is no way to get that money back if that school starts up expecting 200 students and they only have 20. There's no way to get that money back. Now for public schools, there's automatically a way to get it back because of the tuition that's sent to the school district. So their payback is already included in that. And so there's lots of money just leaving the state of Indiana, especially if those schools are sponsored by out-of-state sponsors. So those are things I feel extremely strong about. I have worked on the Family, Children, and Human Affairs Committee for years in 2 areas: human trafficking, which is happening right underneath our noses, and it's happening because we are the crossroads of America right here in Indiana. And that can happen, especially since students have been exposed to more online, to Chromebooks and things like that. They are being just preyed upon by predators, that it's just so much easier for them to get their hands on kids. So I think any legislation that we can do to protect children from predators, I am all about. I also believe, from working on that committee, that we have a lot of parents and grandparents. Instead of parents having custody of their kids, it's now going to grandparents, and in some cases, great-grandparents. I think we're at like 5 now, just in my tiny little rural school. And so we're not providing any financial stability for them, but we're getting them off the books for that. And so it's looking like our numbers are getting better, but it's really putting a severe financial weight on people with fixed incomes. And so I think that desperately needs addressed, because those are people who are really stepping up for our entire communities. And then I just put my name on this bill when I was first a state representative, but I still feel strongly about it. Why aren't we expanding our voting hours, at least by 2 hours in the evening? I mean, let's face it, many people are not even working 40-hour jobs anymore. They might work 29 here and another 15 here. They're not working the normal 9 to 5 hours that we once saw in America. And so anything that we can do to make people be able to vote in a way where they don't feel like they're rushing home or they have to sacrifice one thing for the other, we should be able to do that. And I would also be all for extending it, so for early voting to occur even earlier than what it does. I just think as leaders, we need to make it as easy as possible in this democracy to vote. And I would definitely support anything with that. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you. One more question for Melanie. So, I'm not sure what year it was where, Ball State, had the historical
Yeah.
takeover for Muncie schools. And so after a few years, what would be your brief, summarization of how those things are going?
So I think they're going okay, but why are they going okay? Because with the takeover came money, right? So that's the solver. So really, we were trying to fight to keep that school board, that elected school board in place, and we would do different things like, I know one of my amendments was to try to roll people back on so they could finish their elected term once the takeover was complete. But I think it was forced upon President Mearns too, because he was coming right into the presidency of Ball State. And so I think that his hands were tied. He probably couldn't tell you that, but he's the one who told us about the legislation, and that's how we found out. I think it's an experiment the state wanted to do, and I think they wanted to do it by being sneaky. And instead of identifying the problem, which I did question at the podium, I was told, well, I should know more about that since part of that area is in my district. But we really didn't get to the bottom line of why the financial health of Muncie Community Schools was where it was. So as we've turned out this legislation where we're not asking school leaders, not even superintendents or principals, and we're putting this legislation into place, the financial health of the school system was in various places. So that means like Anderson shut down a lot of buildings and they kind of came out of it. Muncie didn't shut them down as quickly. And so they were still trying to afford all of this infrastructure. And so I think when we take a look at that, and then the property tax caps, and then the transfer of taxes to the state, and then the redistribution out to communities has affected that. So I think it's a very large, expansive problem, but it's never been researched as to the effectiveness. And so what we're left with is, oh yeah, this looks great because they've just stuck a bunch of money into it. Oh, that's what the kids needed in the first place, was the money to be able to support their programs. So I just think transparency is so incredibly important, and doing what's best for kids, and as leaders, I want a leader. I don't even care about the political party. Just be transparent with me. Be upfront. People can handle tough situations if you're honest about it. Don't hide, don't hide, and don't be sneaky about it. So there you go.
Very, very well. We definitely allowed you. I spent a few years teaching Southside. My wife has done some teaching here in the past, and others that attend our church. So we have a lot of respect for anybody that goes to war in the classroom, and it is war. So hats off to you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Dunning, a couple of questions. So one of the questions that I have personally had was some of the disparities in the jails with blacks in particular. No one person can tackle this, and I'm not sure that there's all the right metrics together to really explain why it happens like it does. But a friend and a partner in the ministry, Andre Mitchell, pointed out that he had started some awareness about the disparity that was facing some of the jails with just a small percentages of blacks, how so many of them were filtering down there. Is that something that has come up, or something you give some thought, or something you could add some input on after you give us your top few things that you would like to address as a judge? And again, a lot of respect for you as a judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, as far as policy and things of that nature, my hands are pretty much tied. I can't give my position on certain things because it may appear that I'm prejudging something. Couple of things that I think that I can speak to is moving cases, getting cases in and out of the system quickly, not too quick because you want it to have its proper time. When I took over Muncie City Court, we had over 8,800 misdemeanors pending. That was July of 2015. And today we have just over 3,400 pending. And so we've worked on the caseload and plus the new filings that came in. So what initial hearings were being filed, a case would be filed and the first hearing would be 6 months later because of the time and the calendar, to where now it's within 30 days, 45 days. The pretrial conference, the next time that they're in, is between 30 and 45 days, sometimes 60, based on the calendar. If we're at the holiday time, obviously there's fewer days in court depending on what days the holidays fall on. So being able to move the cases and keep the calendar moving, justice delayed is, justice denied is, there's a lot of truth to that, because when people don't get their day in court, a lot of things can be negatively impacted by that. So I think as a judge, being able to move cases, I've shown that I can do that with city court. I've came in and I've added court days, I've added due process safeguards, and I've taken the caseload down and was able to move the cases while giving more due process. So I have that ability, and I will take that to Circuit Court 1. The other thing that I think regarding the bail system or being able to bond out or being held in the Delaware County Jail, the statistics are well beyond my comprehension and beyond my expertise, because I've not done any research on the national level of that. I can tell you that race never plays a role in whether or not I set bond and whether or not I lower bond or anything like that. What is important to me is your ability to show up to court and my responsibility to keep the community safe. That's what bail is established to do, and those are the two things that are going to be at the forefront of my decision making. Hopefully the attorneys, the state and the defense attorney, are going to give me the information that I need to make the proper decisions in that front. But when you start moving cases and you have a calendar that moves quickly, you get to have bond reduction hearings, you get to have things of that nature. So the actual jail population, I'm not educated enough, or I don't have the information enough to talk about, but how I would handle that as a judge, race is not, it's never played a role, and it won't, because it's not one of the factors that even plays a part. So
Okay, well, one more question.
okay.
So, I'm not sure exactly what year it was where the Muncie jail moved out to South Tennessee. I guess that's where it would be at. I guess
2021.
2021. Some years ago, when we studied the Hawthorne effect, the out of sight, out of mind, and people behave different when people are looking. So I guess when they're not looking, they behave differently as well. So what is your take on what's been the big change since the jail has moved, if you haven't taken it all?
I really, at this time, I don't. I was in the, Muncie City Court used to be part-time. And so when I was appointed July of 2015, I continued my private civil practice. And so as a part-time judge, part-time attorney, both full-time responsibilities. But when COVID hit in 2020, City Council, the backlog was starting to grow. And so City Council voted to take Muncie City Court to a full-time position. So I spent the last 6 months of 2020 winding down my private practice, and I went full-time in Muncie City Court January of 2021, which is when the new building opened. So I've never practiced in the new building because Muncie City Court is still in City Hall, and that is still downtown. So I have visited the new building. I never even got to be an attorney in the new building, which I was kind of disappointed in. I do think the way cases are tried today, a new building was necessary. We needed to update the acoustics, we had to update internet and wiring, and to accommodate the technology of today. The courts that were built in 1989 and 1990 just could not be modified enough. So I think a new building was necessary. I wasn't part of that decision making, nor was I involved with all the details of it. So how it happened, where it happened, I'm going to stand silent on, because I don't have the information to make judgment calls.
Absolutely, thank you so much. Mrs. Harvey, same question to you. You gave your thoughts on what you thought would be important in the coming year in this election. Do you have some personal points of interest that you feel like that you can help change and affect at the clerk's office?
There's definitely the issue of opening up during the lunch hours is very important to me.
I agree.
Because people do pay their child support out there. come out to open up protective orders when, somebody's in fear. And if you're gonna represent yourself, say in a divorce action, you go out there and you open up your case. Another kind of pet peeve of mine that I intend to try to address is the fact that people who are in our jail do not know that if they've not been convicted, if they are waiting to be tried, or waiting, they're just incarcerated, they can vote. And every time that gets brought up, and I don't blame the sheriff, because if you have a Democrat sheriff or Republican sheriff, it might not be in their best interest if they're running to have those people back in the jail vote. But as clerk, I would at least like to try to make it known to the people in there that they do have the opportunity to vote absentee ballot.
Right.
And I don't think it should be, well, the sheriff picking, if he chooses to do that. I think it should be commonplace that the absentee ballot applications get sent back to the jail. I still say up to the jail because I worked in our old justice center for so many years. But I want to try to get that in effect, and I don't know what it's going to take to do it in working in conjunction with the sheriff, but I do think that people should know that they have the right to vote if they're incarcerated and have not yet been convicted and are awaiting trial.
My wife and I, we went down to pay some taxes or do some different things with some documentation, and I was very impressed with how things were ran and how we got good access to stuff and the help that we got. So hats off, and from a personal standpoint, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Janine Lee, same. I know you're passionate about a lot of things. Are there?
Mostly my family.
Okay.
The only one of you guys live in Delaware County, so I don't know what that does.
I'm the favorite by default.
Of course.
So, are there 2 or 3 things that you feel like that if you win right away, that you would try to affect some change in some 2 areas?
Well, we already mentioned some of the things earlier, but one of the things that I think is just vital is to get to make voting a national holiday, where we have everybody has the day off and they can go vote, and you don't have to take, it just would cut down on so much. But in my opinion, I think that the more people vote, the more Democrats win. So that's probably why that hasn't been made a federal holiday yet. So that would be number one. I appreciate John Lewis and those that have gone before us that have fought, bled, and died at times for the right to vote. And I take it, again, I can take it very seriously. So that would be probably number one on my agenda, seriously, is to get the National Voting Rights Act together. So, yeah, and I know we're running short on time, so that's it for me. I mean, that's the one thing that I think is important.
Okay, I agree. I work for General Motors, and we're off tomorrow, so.
Oh, good.
We're on board.
Union vote. We need that union vote, don't we?
Yes, we do.
They're making salary employees come, so I'm not so happy. But I have one more question for all of you. I think we have 10 minutes left, and I think you can keep it under 2 minutes. So this is the last question, and it's the most important question, if you ask me. What's been the best part? We'll start with Sue. What has been the best part of campaigning this year and each year for you?
Okay. Before I answer that, I think I saw another candidate arrive.
That's what I wanted to mention.
I love the people-to-people interaction. I really enjoy knocking on doors and talking with people where they live, hearing what their concerns are, what they think is going right, and them asking me questions. Sometimes they're hard questions, and sometimes it has to do with something going on in their lives. Like I just had somebody who didn't realize that this $200 tax refund is available to everybody, not just those who pay state income taxes. So what I'm doing is getting back to my office and having my assistant contact the Indiana Department of Revenue to find out what is the form that this person who doesn't pay taxes is gonna have to use in order to get what they're entitled to. So you learn a lot when you're going door to door.
Thank you. Melody, what has been your favorite thing about campaigning, the best part of campaigning for you?
I've got to echo that. I love going door to door. I've got to do some of that with Sue this time. And then I've done a lot with John Bartlett, who's running for state representative in parts of the same areas I'm running. And it's just very powerful to hear where people are coming from on their front porch. It resonates with me. It sticks with me. I learned so much. I was just talking to a gentleman in Union City a couple days ago, and I was breathing in everything he was just saying, just thinking, these are points that I had never considered before. It's just such a learning opportunity. And I just enjoy engaging like that. I find it very intellectually stimulating. And it also makes it very easy to vote the district just by having that interaction with people.
Thank you. Mrs. Dunning, what has been the best part of campaigning for you?
Mine has been the events, because we get so caught up in our day-to-day life where you go to work and you go home and you do dinner and you watch TV and you do laundry, and then, Delaware County is all of a sudden boring. And nothing's happening here, and there's nothing to do, and Muncie is horrible, and all of these things. And campaigning, there were days where there wasn't enough time in the day to make it to all the events and all the neighborhood associations and churches and all of this stuff where you get to see people. And I, especially being a full-time judge, you get to see people in a limited environment, and you get to see a certain part of the population in a limited environment. So getting back out into the community and seeing the community events and the community fellowship and the camaraderie and the neighborhoods and the neighbors and, all of that stuff. So I've enjoyed the event. I'm going to take a long nap after this is over, but next summer I'm going to I'm doing it all again because the events were fun.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Harvey, what has been the best part of campaigning for you this year and each year?
Well, this is the first time I've ever run for office, so it's all been a very big learning experience. So that's been great for me. The events, meeting new people. I'm very bad at telling my attributes and tooting my horn. My husband sitting back there is very good at it, however. So when we would meet new people at events or just out and about, it was nice to just meet people. And I've made so many great friends that I would not have been known or been friends with that are helping our candidates who are out there working their butts off to get us elected. And so it's nice to make new friends and rekindle old friendships just by going through all this together. So I think it's been a very good learning experience for me. So that's what I've liked.
Thank you. Lastly, Janine Lee, these last 3 years, what has been the best part of your campaign?
You know what? Our late father, Bishop Clarence Lee, passed away May 1st, just a few days before the primary. And I remember he told me, he said, Janine, win or lose, because I didn't think I was going to get past the primary, to be honest, and we won all 6 counties. So I don't know why I was so worried, but I just didn't think that was going to be the thing for us. But he told me, he said, Janine, he said, you light up when you talk about running. You light up when you talk about meeting people, that have needs and have concerns. And, it is something that I think I learned from my parents, to have a love for community and to want to try to make things better for people. I haven't been poor in 30 years, but we grew up, very poor. I came from a family of 15, so some of these things that I advocate for, healthcare, those things that are important, equality issues, making sure that, that people are, feel that whether you're LGBTQ or whether your skin is brown or black, that you have the same banner of protections and the protections under the banner of the Constitution. Those are all very important things to me, and I care so much about, I really do, I care about my country, and I want us to be a United States, the United States of America. United we stand, and what?
Divided we fall.
Divided we fall. And I think we've fallen far enough, but honestly, it's time for us to start realizing we can't have everything. We have to give, we have to listen, like you said, listen, judge, and hear more what our brothers and sisters have to say. And we're in a church right now, and to me, this is where I learned my values and how to at least strive to be a better person. And I don't make it a lot, but I'm challenged by things, but at the same time too, my guiding star and my North Star is Jesus. So, and the Lord, and so I believe our only way out is together. And I think that we, those of us that have that as our guiding point, if we keep pressing and we keep making it louder, because right now, both sides are so loud, the extremists are so loud, and they're making it seem like everybody agrees with them, and they just don't. So I think that we, the moderate people, the people that are just right down the middle on a lot of the most important issues, if we could start screaming louder, we can make our voices heard. So that's been the best part for me.
Very good, very good. Now, what is your name back there in the back?
I'm Christy now.
Kristen Knapp, okay. Well, this is our
I think
first.
she had something.
Well, I just wanted to add that Christy is running for County Council, District 4, and she was not here when we began because she was out putting signs up at the polling places for all of the candidates. So she meant no disrespect, trust me.
Oh, your husband wants some props too.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not a candidate.
Well, we've enjoyed our time here. This is our first annual, so we're going to try to do it each year.
Yeah.
And next year, I believe that we'll have some of the other side come in, and we'll be able to maybe do a little better.
Hope springs eternal.
I'll leave you guys with one of my favorite quotes from a lady you might know. Her name is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. You've ever heard of her before? You'll find it here. When she was asked how she would like to be remembered, she said, someone who used whatever talent she had to do her work to the very best of her ability and to help repair tears in her society, and to make things a little better through the use of whatever ability she has, to do something outside of herself. So that's our prayer for you all today and through your campaign, is that you use the talent that God has given you to do the work that He's called you to do to your very best, and that you can help to repair the tears in this society and to do something outside of yourself. We're praying for you. Thank you. Let's give him a hand clap. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor
Let's
John
do it
Lee.
again next year when all you guys win.
Just not the night before.
Johnny, can we get a picture with you?
Not
Lynetta?
election
Yeah, I'm
eve.
gonna get a picture of you all first. If you
okay.
know.
Yes, I
Okay.
started to say, yes, we need a picture. Okay. All right.
You want us here, behind, or in front?
Right here.
Okay.
Christy, we should get Christy in this picture.
Christy, you can get in this picture.
Scott,
Stop talking.
send Christy up here.
Christy, you gotta come at least for the shot.
Yeah.
She was doing the heavy work today.
She was doing the heavy work. She got her tennis shoes on and everything.
Yes.
And her signature pink. This is yours.
Thank you.
Hi, sweetie. Hey, come on in.
still count. We're the young people.
Yeah.
Pictures. 1, 2, 3. A little closer. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
My turn. Okay, thank you.
Yep, okay.
Will you send me?
Yes.
Scott's back there, yeah,
That was
instead of
good.
photographing.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be putting out signs now?
Yes.
I am, yes,
You know,
yes.
was Scott able to lock up for Michael?
Yeah, I think so.
Did he get the other signs, or do we have to go there to get them? Okay.
I bet, I don't know, I bet he did
Yeah, I
not.
bet
I
he
don't
didn't.
see
Your latest,
We've got yours.
Okay, thank you. I know he asked for some burning more today, so we
Yeah.
gave him what we had.
Yeah, we gave him, we're putting him up at every precinct.
And you
Thanks,
guys,
you guys.
people were
Good
taking
luck,
yours.
everybody.
I wasn't taking yours, but
Thank
somebody
you.
was
Good luck.
taking your signs out and put them at the, they were putting them out.
Yeah, so
You
we had a
guys.
team,
We're putting
okay.
them out in my district.
Johnny,
Yeah,
Johnny, you didn't
I
want
would
to
have
pick
put
them
them out.
Okay.
Well, somebody was already there putting them out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hey,
I
Judge,
don't have the whole county.
Judge.
No, I
Part
know.
of it, so I.
They want a picture with,
Melanie
just real
needs
quick.
someone to do hers in those areas.
Yeah.
You guys want to get a picture with the first lady and the pastor real quick?
What's that?
The pastor and the
Can I
first
get a
lady.
picture, one picture with you?
Yep.
We can get down there, Bonnie.
Well, it's okay, right up here.
Okay.
I don't know which is where I preach at.
Lynetta, I think you're supposed to get in here. Christy, you too. Shelley, one more.
One good picture. This is already our picture.
Who did this?
I did. That's my newspaper.
Oh, that's good, I like that.
All the black churches
Slide
in
over that.
Muncie and some of the barber shops too.
Okay, you
And
all
beauty
ready?
shops.
Ready.
Trisha,
All
you're a
right.
great
Thank you,
photo.
thank you so much.
Keep going, Johnny. We love you.
All right, I'm headed to get signs.
You're headed back just tomorrow? I take tomorrow and Wednesday off. Yeah.
Janine, are you, is your RV parked right there on the corner? I saw it. I said, I saw Janine's poster inside the RV. So you know what?
And so, tell them it's for your advertising. I've been doing that for 2 years.